First you want to disconnect the battery. Use a 8mm wrench. Loosen up on the negative side terminal. Take that off and set it aside. Now the starter is located on the passenger side of the engine. There's a wire right here that goes to the oil level sensor. I'm just going to take a right angle pick, disconnect that connector just so I have a little slack on the wiring. You just release that, use the pick to slide that up. Disconnect that. Now there's 2 bolts right here. Use a 13mm socket. All right, take these bolts out. You can slide the starter back. I'm going to take this bolt out right here, use a 10mm socket. Take that out. And then just slide the starter back a little bit. Just take this bracket off, just set it aside. It goes around the starter. And then you can slide the starter down. And if the wiring's in your way, just slide it out of the way a little bit. There's a little cover right here. Take this cover off. Just slide it up like that. Now we need to take the ignition wire off of here. Use an 8mm wrench and take that little nut off. You just twist the starter to the side the best you can. And loosen it up. You could also use a 8mm socket if you can get in there. Just try to get that nut off. That works also. And slide the ignition wire off. Then not this nut right here, but there's another nut on the other side that holds the positive cable on the starter. Use a 13mm wrench or a socket. Loosen up the nut on there. Now make sure, before you take that nut completely off, make sure you support the starter. Take that nut off and slide the starter down. Before we put the starter back, just take a wire brush, just clean the connections, just so it's nice and clean, so there's a good connection. Just use a wire brush. All right, take the new starter and line this connector up. There is a lock washer. I'm going to put that on first. And then put the nut on and tighten that up. So make sure you put it on the right stud, don't put it on this other stud. And tighten that up. And if you have the ability to get a torque wrench in there, you can torque that to 80 inch-pounds. Do the best you can. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. All right, that's tight. Now take the ignition or the starter wire, get that lined up over the correct stud. It's kind of hard to see. You can't really see what we're doing. Kind of have to go in blind a little bit. Slide that on. And there's a lock washer for that as well. And put the nut on. And again, if you can get a torque wrench in here to tighten this down, you can torque that to 30 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. Now with those bolted on, you can take this shield, slide the shield back in position. And slide it back. Slide that starter somewhat in position before you put this bolt back in. And get that bolt lined up. And I'll snug this bolt down. And take the 2 starter bolts. Get these started. And we'll torque those 2 bolts to 37 foot-pounds. And reconnect the oil level sensor. Lock it in place. Now you can reconnect the negative terminal in the battery. Just get that started. Use an 8mm wrench and tighten it up. Just snug it and then just make sure it's not loose. It's good to go.